in Europe, all things dealing with the debt crisis are coming undone. Kurt Nemo reports that there are ECB riots beginning in Italy as globalist Super Mario forces austerity. Now, another story we have for you tonight was based on a tip we got on the radio today. Alex and myself heard from a caller talking about an article in Game Informer, the world's #1 video game magazine, and it promised to explore the volatile political climate with a groundbreaking and controversial look at homegrown terror. And it gets into an article about the new Rainbow Six Patriots game, which is one of several games based on the Tom Clancy novels. And this article is called The Enemy Within. It says, you fought Nazi, Russian, North Korean, and Middle Eastern threats. Now in Rainbow Six Patriots, you're asked, can you turn the weapon on your fellow countrymen? Can you turn the weapon on your fellow countrymen? I want to read part of this blurb here because it's very informative. Americans are angry, and why shouldn't they be? Goes through everything dealing with debt, foreclosures, bailouts, the degrading infrastructure, the job market, and a whole lot more. It says, in response to the gradual erosion of our beloved nation, resentful citizens of all kinds of backgrounds are rising up in the form of new political movements like the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street. But unlike the 60s, they have proven largely ineffective at slowing or reversing the downward trajectory, and the media is not helping matters, going on to blame internet and talk radio, among other things. Case in point, okay, it says history proves that if leaders don't move swiftly to address the grievances, the political rage can sometimes find a more violent channel of expression. Case in point, the meteoric rise of militias in the past few years, and who does it quote but the Southern Poverty Law Center and extremely politically biased groups that have long sought to target, quote, white ring groups, as well as patriot and militia groups, including this organization and many other groups from We Are Change on down, all peaceful groups trying to defend this country and uphold the Constitution. It says in 2009, the Southern Poverty Law Center reported a massive resurgence in anti-government paramilitary groups, which jumped from 43 militias in 2007 to nearly 300 in 2010. And this was noticed by Homeland Security, NSA, CIA, FBI, and others as a real threat to the stability of the nation. Then it goes on to how America's volatile political climate serves as the jumping off point for Rainbow Six Patriots, where the tactical shooters series eschews the exhausted Russian, Chinese, and Middle Eastern crises that were so common, now to replace them with the roles of elite tactical units with homegrown terrorists. And the civilians caught in the crossfire, do you have what it takes to pull the trigger on a fellow citizen? And so they've set the scenario for Homeland Security talking points where they're targeting returning veterans, which are mentioned in this lengthy 6-page article, militia groups, radical political groups throughout the country, and more. In the game, they have a scenario where the true patriots is a combine made up of various militia groups throughout the country, headed by a charismatic figure named Treadway, who hopes to restore civil liberties and the Constitution. And it says he can strike anywhere. He'd like to overthrow the government, but he's really smart, and he knows that a movement today won't conclusively have lasting change tomorrow, thus other types of movements there, which the game gets into. And there's an added bonus. It says in previous games, allowing a civilian to die was game over. That means you lose the game, you have to start over. Now you're not exempt from tough situational decisions. Do you kill one civilian now and potentially spare hundreds of lives, or is the lone human life too critical to lose, even if it means thousands of others may meet an untimely death down the road? In Patriots, you make the call whether or not to kill American civilian citizens. And this is just disgusting. It matches perfectly the MIAC report that leaked in 2009, the very similar Homeland Security report, identifying third-party political groups, constitutionalists, and a whole lot more as part of the growing domestic terrorism situation that TSA and the rest of them are supposed to be on the lookout for, thus justifying checkpoints and everything else on the highways, at train stations, bus stations, now in shopping malls. They have people watching at hotels now, they say, and a whole lot more. And this is just disgusting indoctrination. There's a lot of youth who play these games who will later be joining the military and essentially brainwashed through, I think the average video game takes at least 40 hours of playing to complete, so it's a lot more time you spend in these games than with a movie or a TV program, and through the first-person shooter, you're repeating these actions over and over, so you really kind of get indoctrinated with it. Just a dangerous precedent, and you can see where government propaganda is in these big, expensive games, which rake in more money now than a lot of movies and TV programs as well. So an interesting tip we got, and it is certainly true. You can check that out again in Game Informer, and we're going to keep an eye on what possible effect that Rainbow Six Patriots could have. Now, we're going to be back from break in just a minute with exclusive coverage of the United Nations takeover. And really, in other ways, this game just goes along with the same indoctrination of series like 24 with Jack Bauer, where it's okay to torture people. You decide if it's worth it to kill civilians to stop a terrorist attack, especially when it's American citizens as part of a homegrown effort.